Money. It's something you use every day. But have you ever stopped to think about the history of money in America? Today, it's so easy to purchase virtually anything we want, as long as we have the funds to pay for it. But it wasn't always so easy. Developing the monetary system we have in place today was a long and drawn-out process, still evolving to this day. Let's start back in the beginning. In the earliest American settlements, formal money was scarce. Colonists arrived from Europe with very few coins and definitely no paper money. They had to create their own systems of exchange to survive and prosper. Barter was the most common method of purchasing items. Neighbors might trade a basket of eggs for some cheese. A trapper could exchange beaver pelts for gunpowder and tools. This direct trade of goods and services formed the foundation of the colonial economy. The value of an item was negotiated between the buyer and the seller. This system worked for small local communities where everyone knew each other. But as towns grew, the limitations of barter became clear. People needed a more convenient medium of exchange. They began to use certain commodities as money. These were items that had a widely accepted value. In Virginia, tobacco leaves served as currency for many years. In the New England colonies, wampum, polished beads made from seashells, were used in trade with Native American tribes and among colonists. Corn, apples, and other crops were also valued commodities. Foreign coins also circulated widely throughout the colonies. The British pound had been in use since the year 800. Like the US dollar we know today, smaller denominations included shillings and pence. The colonists were familiar with these, being subjects of the crown, until 1776. In many early records, wills, receipts, etc., British currency was used. However, the most prevalent coin was not English. It was the Spanish silver dollar, often called a piece of 8. This large silver coin was minted in enormous quantities in Spanish colonies like Mexico and Peru. It was trusted for its consistent silver content. In order to make change of the dollar, people would literally cut the coin into 8 wedge-shaped pieces, or bits. This is why a quarter of a dollar is sometimes called 2 bits. Colonial port cities often saw a variety of coins changing hands. There were French coins, Dutch coins, and Portuguese coins, for example. The colonists eventually began to experiment with their own forms of money. The Massachusetts Bay Colony produced 3 coins in 1652, the willow, the oak, and the pine tree shilling. The colony was also the first to issue its own paper currency in 1690. These bills of credit were essentially IOUs from the colonial government. They were issued to pay for military expeditions and other public expenses. Other colonies soon followed this example, printing their own paper notes. These notes were a bold innovation, but they came with problems. Some colonies printed too much money, causing rapid inflation. The value of a note from one colony was often not accepted in another, and when they were accepted, the value often varied from colony to colony. This patchwork system of colonial currencies created confusion and instability in trade. The American Revolutionary War created an urgent need for a national currency. To fund the war effort, the Continental Congress began issuing paper money in 1775. This currency was known as the Continental, or Continental currency. These notes weren't backed by gold or silver. Their value was based solely on the promise that they would be redeemable after the war was won, and the Continental Congress printed massive amounts of this currency to pay soldiers and purchase supplies. The British, in an act of economic warfare, produced counterfeit Continentals to further devalue the money and undermine the American cause. As the war dragged on, public confidence in the Continental currency collapsed, but the government printed more and more notes, leading to hyperinflation. Prices for goods skyrocketed. What cost $1 at the beginning of the war might cost hundreds of dollars by the end. the currency became virtually worthless. This disastrous experience gave rise to the popular phrase, "not worth a continental." It left the newly independent nation with a deep distrust of paper money that was not backed by precious metals. The failure of the Continental taught the Founding Fathers a harsh lesson about the importance of sound money. After the war, the United States was governed by the Articles of Confederation. The central government was weak and lacked the power to create a uniform currency. States continued to print their own money, and foreign coins were still widely used. This chaotic monetary situation hindered interstate commerce and economic growth. The nation's leaders recognized that a stable national monetary system was essential for the country's survival. The need for a single, reliable currency was one of the key motivations behind the drafting of the U.S. Constitution, which gave Congress the sole power to coin money. This constitutional power was put into action with the Coinage Act of 1792. This landmark legislation established the United States Mint in Philadelphia. It also created the dollar as the nation's official unit of currency. The act authorized the minting of coins in both gold and silver, creating a bimetallic standard. Coins were produced in various denominations. Copper coins included the half-cent and the cent. Silver coins included the half-dime and the dime, adopting the Old French word for dime. Quarter dollar, half dollar, and dollars were also minted in silver. Gold coins were the quarter eagle, $2.50, the half eagle, $5, and the eagle, $10. These first federal coins brought order and stability to American commerce. During the 19th century, the American economy grew at a rapid pace. This expansion created a demand for more currency than the U.S. Mint could supply with coins alone. In response, a new era of paper money began. From 1836 to 1863, known as the free banking era, the federal government did not issue paper money. Instead, states chartered private banks to issue their own banknotes. At its peak, thousands of different banks across the country printed their own unique currency. These notes were supposed to be redeemable for gold or silver coins at the issuing bank. This system of private banknotes was often chaotic and unreliable. The value of a note depended entirely on the reputation and solvency of the bank that issued it. Some banks were stable and their notes traded at face value. Many others were poorly managed or outright fraudulent wildcat banks. These institutions would set up in remote areas, issue worthless notes, and then disappear. Counterfeiting was rampant, making it difficult for ordinary people to know if their money was genuine. People had to consult weekly publications called banknote reporters to determine the value or discount rate of the hundreds of different notes in circulation. The American Civil War brought profound changes to the nation's currency system. To finance the immense costs of the war, the Union government needed a new source of funds. So in 1862, Congress authorized the printing of the first federal paper money since the Continental. These notes were called demand notes and later United States notes. They were given the nickname greenbacks because of the distinctive green ink used on the reverse side to deter counterfeiting. Crucially, these greenbacks were not backed by gold or silver. They were a fiat currency, meaning their value based on the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. During this period, other forms of currency also emerged to meet local needs. When government-issued coins became scarce due to hoarding, businesses began to issue their own private tokens. These small, coin-like pieces were typically made of copper or brass. They were used to make change and were redeemable for goods or services at the issuing store. Tens of thousands of different Civil War tokens were produced. Consequently, the government experimented with fractional currency. These were small paper notes in denominations of 3 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents, 25 cents, and 50 cents, created to alleviate the coin shortage. These were sometimes called shin plasters. Following the Civil War, the federal government sought to create a more unified and trustworthy banking system. The National Bank Act of 1863 allowed the creation of nationally chartered banks. These national banks could issue their own banknotes, but unlike the wildcat notes of the past, these were backed by U.S. government bonds deposited with the Treasury. This backing ensured their value and created a more uniform and stable paper currency. These national banknotes were elaborately designed and featured the name of the issuing bank, its town, and its charter number, creating a fascinating variety for collectors today. To further increase public confidence in paper money, the government introduced currency directly backed by precious metals held in the U.S. Treasury, and in 1865, the U.S. Secret Service was established to control counterfeiting. That same year, gold certificates were issued by the Department of the Treasury. These beautifully designed notes explicitly stated they were redeemable on demand for a specific amount of gold coin and gold bullion. In 1878, silver certificates were authorized. A person could take a $1 silver certificate to a bank and exchange it for a silver dollar. This era represented the high point of a currency system tied directly to physical metal. However, the United States officially abandoned the gold standard for its citizens in 1933 during the Great Depression. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose face is featured on the Roosevelt dime, signed an executive order on March 10, 1933, requiring everyone in the U.S. to deliver all gold certificates, gold bullion, and gold coins to the Federal Reserve by May 1, 1933. The private ownership of gold coins, bars, and certificates was made illegal, and it remained that way for 30 years. Silver certificates continued to be issued until the 1960s, when the rising price of silver led the government to stop redeeming them for metal and to remove silver from circulating coinage. The most significant development in this period was the creation of the modern monetary system. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 established the Federal Reserve System as the nation's central bank. The Fed was created to provide a more elastic and stable financial system. It began issuing its own currency, known as Federal Reserve notes. These are the green and black paper bills that we use today. Initially, these notes were also backed by gold. Over time, Federal Reserve notes replaced national banknotes and other types of currency. They are now the only form of paper money printed in the United States. Today, the currency of the United States consists of Federal Reserve notes and coins issued by the U.S. Mint. The journey to this standardized system was long and complex. The coins we use daily have also evolved significantly. The large silver dollars, half dollars, quarters, and dimes were discontinued in 1965. The rising price of silver made the metal in the coins worth more than their face value. They were replaced with coins made of a copper-nickel alloy, which look similar but contain no precious metal. Gold coins are no longer circulated, but the U.S. Mint produces American Eagle gold bullion coins and American Eagle silver bullion coins for investors. The designs on our money continue to change, reflecting the nation's history and values. The 50-state quarters program, launched in 1999, was incredibly popular and sparked new interest in coin collecting. It has been followed by other series honoring national parks and American women. Our paper money has also undergone frequent redesigns, primarily to stay ahead of counterfeiters. New bills incorporate advanced security features like color-shifting ink, security threads, watermarks, and 3D security ribbons. These innovations are crucial for maintaining trust in the currency. The history of American money is not just a story of coins and paper. It's a story about trust. From the worthless Continental to the gold-backed certificates, money's value has always depended on the public's faith in the issuing authority. When that trust failed, the currency failed. Today, our fiat money's value rests on the trust in the stability and strength of the U.S. government and its economy. It has been a constant struggle to build and maintain that trust. The cool thing about old money is that you never know where it's been, who its many owners were, the things it bought and paid for. Maybe it was used to pay for the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge, stolen in a bank robbery by Jesse James. Maybe it belonged to Thomas Edison or Frederick Douglass. Maybe it once passed through the hands of your own great-great-great-grandparents. This rich history is why collecting old currency is such a fascinating hobby. Every coin, token, and banknote is a tangible piece of the past. A Spanish piece of 8 connects us to the colonial era of pirates and trade. A Civil War token tells a story of a nation divided and a local merchant's ingenuity. A silver certificate recalls a time when money was a direct promise for precious metal. These items are not just old money. They are historical artifacts. They teach us about our nation's economic challenges, its artistic expression, and its long journey from barter and beads to the complex financial world we live in today. And in my opinion, that's why it all matters. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more peeks into the past.